And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Hardback. Now, I first played a game from Paperback from the same designer, the same company, Tim Fowers, and half designer here. I really liked Paperback. I didn't know what to expect. It was a word game mixed with a deck builder, and I was like, I don't know. But the fact is that it really did a double cross appeal. I like deck building games, like Dominion and things like that. And my wife liked word games. And it went together like butter. So wonderful. Such a smooth, fantastic game. I was told that this was not a sequel to Paperback, that it was different than Paperback. It's a deck builder that also does words a little bit differently. Let me show you. If you've never played Paperback before, don't worry about it. This is a very different game. Here's how it plays. The goal of this game is to get the most prestige. You're going to keep track with a little bookmarker here on this track to get your prestige, and you're trying to get to 60 prestige. The first person to do that is going to be the winner of the game. Each player is going to start with their own deck of cards. It's made up of common letters, E, A, I, L, R, T, N, and S, and then you're going to randomly get two other starting letters. So maybe, for example, I get G and O. You're going to shuffle this deck together. This is going to be your deck on your turn. And you're going to have 5 cards in your hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to be using these cards to make a word. Now, it's going to be hard sometimes to figure out the word to make with these. Let's see what I can get from this one. Well, let's see. I can do soar, S-O-R-E. So, or I could do sure. You're like, wait a minute, Tom. There's no H in your hand. You're right, but any letter ever can be flipped over to make a wild. So I could say sure. Now, there's no benefit to me doing that in this case, but sometimes you're going to want to do that to get a word that you need. But these cards, when you use them, give you no benefits, but you can use them as a wild. Once you're done doing that, you will get the benefits on all your cards. So, for example, this gives me 3 cents to spend and 1 prestige, which I'd keep track of up here. When I'm spending, I can buy any of the cards out here. There's 7 cards, and each of these cards are from different genres. You can see there's horror and mystery and adventure and romance. And the cost of each card is at the bottom. Now, unfortunately here, none of the cards cost only 3 cents. So instead, I'm going to have to use my 3 cents to buy 3 ink. You can buy ink with your leftover pennies. Now, ink is used for a couple things. On a future turn, when I'm drawing cards, let's say I draw 5 cards. And besides, if you've never played a deck builder before, once I am done with the cards in my deck, I'll take my discard pile and shuffle it. If I ever buy new cards, they'll also go into my discard pile and I'll get more of them. But let's say I decide to play 2 ink. For each ink I play, I'm going to draw a card. Here's the deal though. For each ink that I use, I have to use those letters in my word. There's no way around it, or I can't make the word at all. Unless you have this, which will put out the ink, you can cancel your own ink. So ink is a way to get more letters to build a bigger word, but you have to use the letters that are drawn then. Eventually, you'll have enough to buy these cards in the middle. And you can see when you play these cards, you're going to get better bonuses from them. So for example, here, this D, when I play this, I get 3 prestige, and I get an ink or a remover. Remover is the white tokens. Then you'll see a line, and underneath that line it shows a skull and it says gain 3 prestige. That means I can use this if I've played another card that's a skull on the same turn. So having a deck with a lot of the same genre will give things. If I play this D and I've already played another skull, then I am going to be getting 6 prestige. It's a pretty good deal. Over here, this R gives me a penny. But if I play another mystery card, it will give me 2 more cents, and it lets me uncover an adjacent wild. What that means is if I use the card as a wild, I can flip it and still get the benefits from it. And so there's all sorts of different benefits here. Look at the R. Draw the top 3 cards from your deck, put each card back, or discard it. Then there are some cards when you get them. These are legendary cards. When you get these cards and you put them in front of you, it stays in front of you. And you're going to get that benefit. You can use that letter every turn. So this one here gained 2 cents and 1 prestige. That's great. And if you play another romantic card, you get another penny and another prestige. However, when you have these cards in front of you, other players can also use those. If they use them, then you have to discard it. So these, special cards, they're great, but if another player uses it, they're going to go. These are called timeless classic cards. And there's all sorts of different cards, like I said, that are in the deck that will give different special abilities. Some will let you trash a card from your discard. That takes it out of your deck permanently. And each of the remember I showed you before, Uncover an Adjacent Wild, that's kind of like a thing of the deductive ones, while the horror ones are going to let you get more ink and remover. The adventure ones are going to often just let you trash different cards, or sometimes they'll trash it from discards. Sometimes they'll affect someone else. Everyone else has to return an unused ink or remover. Some will double a card, like this will double an adjacent card, and whatever that card says, now it gives you double points. And there is literally a ton of these cards. Every time someone buys one, they come up. There's a way to clear them. If 4 or more are of the same genre, you can clear the row at the beginning of your turn, or if they're all too expensive at a certain point, you can clear the thing. That's the game. You're just going to keep taking turns till someone gets to 60 prestige. Now, each player, there are other things you can add to the game. There are different modules, special abilities for the different players, different rules, literary awards that you can get, rules that will come into play. Ink tokens cost 2 cents each when final drafts here, or no card costing more than 4 cents can be played face up. So there's a bunch of other extra things that you can add to the game, but that's basically how it works. I really can't complain about these cards. They are so good looking. The letters are easy to read. They're each in different fonts, but then that helps match the different types of genres that they are. But there's also symbols on the cards to tell you what kind of genre that card is. It kind of gives you a basic thing that card does. This one here gives money, while this one here gives prestige. And then at the bottom, the symbology is very easy, and the cost is at the bottom. So I really like how these look. They have the look of a book. Very good. The ink tokens are really nice. The black and white, easy to tell apart, and they're fun to spend. The books are cool, but they are not a useful way to keep track on this board. You can't really fit, you can fit 2 in one spot, but not more than that. They're fiddly, easy to move, so while they're cool, I think that they don't do so well. I do like the use of a bookcase for keeping score. I like keeping track of this as a first player marker, and each player has their own player board to keep things, and these look nice. The artwork, of course, with this game, and especially with the expansion cards and things like that, is really well done. It's the artist that this company has always used. My biggest complaint, and I'll probably complain about this for every Tim Fowers game, is that you have to play Tetris almost to get everything back in the box, and I find that problematic. It's just difficult to get it in. And by the way, the box looks great, right? But getting everything back in there, you got to work at that part. But I guess it's better than maybe having too big of a box, but I wouldn't mind having a slightly bigger box. Now the deal here really is right. People are going to be comparing this to Paperback. Some of you watching the review are like, I never played Paperback, this is boring. Okay, I'll get through this quickly. But the fact is they are very different games. Paperback is a much simpler game. It's build letters. It has much more to do with deck building. This adds a lot of complexity, although I'd be very cautious to call it complex. It's not that complex, but there's more things going on in this one. They're both at their heart basic deck builders. This one leads me thinking closer to the Ascension family of deck builders, while the original was closer to Dominion. I think they're both going to appeal to different groups. If I had to pick one that I would prefer to play at any given point, it would be difficult. I could play one or the other. I think I like Paperback better overall because it's easier for me to play that with people, but I also enjoy this one a good deal. Now this one takes a lot of elements from other games, like the row of cards from Ascension. It takes the cards that work together from Marvel Legendary and other games where you have multiple cards going together. But it does have something in it I haven't seen before, and that's these little ink tokens. They're really interesting. Now you can turn in ink tokens. I think it's 3 ink tokens for a penny. So you could save them for future currency. That's fine. But using them to draw cards, it's almost like a push your luck aspect to it. Because you play it, you draw a card, and you're like, oh, now I got an L. Well, that doesn't work with these other cards. And so I'm sitting there looking at the 5 cards and thinking, I can make a word with these, but should I draw some more cards to make a bigger word, which will let me do better things? But then I have to use the cards I draw. So that's cool, especially if you have the ink removers. Then it's less of a push your luck thing. You're like, of course I'll draw some cards. If I can't use them, I use the ink removers to get rid of them. It's a really nice, simple system. And what I like is, in this game, like many games, I can sit there and work on this stuff on someone else's turn. I'm still watching what they're doing, and this game has all the things in place, words from a dictionary, blah, blah, blah. Can't use proper nouns and all that stuff. But I do like that you can kind of think on other people's turns. I also like that this game has those cards that can turn into wilds. You can do pretty much anything you want. I don't believe I played yet where I couldn't make a word, right? It might be long with an L and 3 wilds, right? But so there's that, and it's just that if you draw that card, extra card, and then you have to use it, you might get a much worse word than you would have got had you used your original letters. There's that, but you can always do something. And the game also has a rule in it where you can basically ask for other people's help. You can say, here's my things. Can someone give me a word? Now, why would someone give you a word? Because if they do, they get one of those ink tokens. And you get a word. So that kind of gives a little bit of semi-cooperation to the game, and people help. And so that's cool. The variants are cool and they work, but I kind of like the base game as is. Just that's pretty much the same way I feel about Paperback 2. Is there room in the collection for both? I think so. I like them both. They both work really well. They are different enough games, though. I think you will enjoy them. I don't know that anyone needs both. I think you would say, I think you should watch the reviews for both of them. I think one will appeal to a group more than the other one. But it is a cool system. It still lets me mess with words. I don't have to sit there and say, well, this person's a brilliant person. They're able to come up with all kinds of words, and they found this really cool 2 or 3 letter word I didn't know existed. That doesn't matter. I'm just trying to make a word with the cards I have, and at the same time sync up cards in my deck to get that prestige thing going. Because you can, in this game, get caught up, like I often do, in getting lots of money. Oh yeah, I got all this money, and meanwhile someone's moved pretty far on that prestige track. By the time you get all that money, you better start buying cards that give you more prestige to catch up. It seems to be well balanced. All the cards do really cool things. My only complaint would be maybe at certain points there's a lot of cards. Sometimes you run out of money, and so your turn might not be very interesting. But once you add those ink tokens, things get popping along. Thumbs up from me. A lot of fun. Another good game from Tim Fowers. Highly recommend it. Hardback. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.